Hey everybody, Dr. Christine Kazmar here, the Digestion Doc, helping people all over the world regain their freedom from the crappiest, yes, crappiest health conditions like Crohn's, colitis, IBS, IBD, nausea, you name it. I'm looking at the root cause of what's causing these different types of stresses. And speaking of stress, we're going to dive into that right now. So first we have a big giant triangle, and I've talked about this on previous videos, but I'm going to talk about it today in a little bit of a different way. Triangles have three sides, right? So let's talk about the three sides of my health triangle, if you will. And we have structural stress, functional stress, and neurological stress. The deal is this. The jig is up. You can't separate structure from function. That's what my mentor, Dr. Loomis, always says. And what that means is you have your nervous system that controls and coordinates the function of every cell, tissue, muscle, organ in the body. So oftentimes people will come to me with different digestive stresses, of course, and I'm helping them a great deal. But if they have any kind of neurological impact going on with their spine, there's only so much I can do with that. Conversely, you can affect your nervous system by having improper digestion too. What's all that about? Well, we're going to talk about that right now. So when it comes to structural stress, what would be some examples of structural stress? Car accidents, the birthing process, a fall, an injury, repetitive motions like sitting on your wallet or women carrying your purse on the same shoulder, that kind of thing. And you can go on, right? These are examples of physical structural stress. So think of that, think of your body like a brand spanking new Lexus, right? Right off the line. It's going to be supreme. It's going to have great fuel mileage. It's going to have great everything. But what now if we're talking about something that was made in the 70s? Maybe a VW that's from the 70s, right? And it's beat up. The wheels are wobbling as it's driving down the road. Is that going to burn through more gasoline than the Lexus? No, of course it will. That's the same thing with your body. The more beat up you are, the more your posture is out of position or out of alignment or battered, for lack of a better word. Maybe you've got a bad toe that is modifying how you're walking. You're going to burn through more nutrition. And nutrition is the science of food. So your structure, your spine, your anatomy has a lot to do with what's going on overall in this triangle. Next, I want to talk to you about what's happening with functional stress. Functional stress would be things like that are physiological in origin. So this could be things like an elevated blood pressure. This could be things like hyperthyroid or hypothyroid or any of these types of things. These are going to change the way that the body functions. Okay, so when we're talking about function, we're talking about physiology. When we're talking about structure, we're talking about anatomy. When we're talking about neurology, obviously we're talking about the nervous system. But let me go back to what I was saying earlier when I mentioned that your digestion can impact your nervous system as well. What do I mean by that? Let's talk about that next. When it comes to digestion, you have 8 specific phases of stress. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my little video called thedigestiondoctor.com/stress to check more of that out. But for right now, I'm going to go over those 8 things really quickly with you. Number 1, and this is the way that we sequentially stress. We go down in this specific cascade. First, our diet is a mess. Then digestion is affected. Then our bowel movements are affected. Then we have inflammation. Then it's going to affect our immune system, our body's crime and defense system. Then our autonomic nervous system, ding, 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 that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. The autonomic nervous system is affected. Then our endocrine or hormone system is affected. And then finally the lymphatics. And I know that 8 is really close to that N in inflammation, I'm sorry. So we have these 8 phases of digestive stress. This is what we need to look at, and this is what the broken medical model is never looking at. So when we talk about the autonomic nervous system, we're talking about 2 components. We're talking about the sympathetic nervous system. We're talking about the parasympathetic nervous system. Here's how it's related to nutrition. Your sympathetic nervous system is run on alkaline minerals. Alkaline minerals such as magnesium, sodium, and potassium. Your parasympathetic nervous system is run on acidic minerals, things like chloride, phosphorus, and sulfur. When the body is out of balance or when it's under stress for too long, you're going to burn through that nutrition, much like that car example I gave in the beginning. However, most people are what are called sympathetic dominant. And it just so happens when we talk about that structure, that triangle, right? The structure, the area of the body that controls the sympathetic nervous system is in the thoracic spine or in the mid back. So when you think about somebody who's really stressed out, their shoulders are tight, they're all rigid, right? It's the same thing. It's the same nervous system that's being compromised when we're under stress. Not often will you ever see somebody that's in parasympathetic dominance, but the sympathetic nervous system is known as the fight or flight response. It's where cortisol dumps into your bloodstream. It's so many things are going on. Like a little kid runs in the street, you slam on your brakes, your eyes open, you start doing all of these things on a physiological, on a functional nature, right? There's another side of that triangle. The neurological side is communicating constantly. So all these parts of the triangle are all united in this example, right? You're actually physically changing your body, right? With putting your foot on the brake, not the gas, putting your foot on the brake. You are physiologically changing through function by your eyes are dilating. You're changing your breath to try to like not hit this kid. And your neurology is connecting all of those things together. You can't separate structure and function. More people often than not are stuck in that fight or flight response where they're just so stressed out all of the time and that they are losing those alkaline minerals. Now they are becoming acidic. This is where cancer survives. And cancer really is fungus. I think that we're going to hear that in our lifetime. We're going to hear cancer be referred to as fungus or yeast. And so just be mindful that all of these different 8 phases here, they all interplay with each other, but they all have to do with stress. And so many times patients ask me, well, Dr. Christine, but I don't understand. Like I'm going through all of this stuff with them. And they don't understand why they got stressed in the first place. Well, that's where we need to first talk about what stress is. Stress has 3 components to it: physical, emotional, and nutritional. At any given time, your body is going through stress, is dealing with all of this at any given time. And you may have components to all 3 of them. It's not just you're only under physical stress, but not emotional, nutritional. You could be under all 3 at the exact same time. That, my friends, is when symptoms result. Symptoms are signs of energy deficiencies. So we have those 3 silos. You guys are making me so happy when you come in to see me. And a lot of you are brand new patients and you mentioned to me that you've watched my videos, that you've listened to my podcast and you talk about the silos. Like patients are coming and mentioning the word silos. It makes me so happy. Whether I call them silos or energy tanks, whatever the case is, let me explain to you something that the medical profession, either they just ignore it or they don't want to know about it or they just are ignorant to it. And that is you only get energy in this process. So we have those silos. And this is how the body draws energy. And this will never change. First, the body gets the energy from carbs because carbs are so simple to digest. We get energy from carbohydrates as soon as 15 minutes from eating a meal. That's because your brain is a glucose hog. It needs that energy quickly. It needs it quickly. If we were meant to be a ketogenic diet, why wouldn't we have way more enzymes in our saliva to digest fats? Answer that. The simple truth is fats are the hardest to digest. Of course they can give you energy. Of course they can. But you want that from a short-term reserve. You don't want that long term. You should not be in urinary ketosis for long periods of time. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You should not vilify fruits or any plants. That's dangerous and it's irresponsible. The body was made a very specific way and we should never ignore that. So what happens is when I test my patients, instead of them being nice and full in this tank, they should be full in all of these tanks for your energy. But what happens is if people are not properly digesting carbs, or maybe they're ketogenic and they're not eating any carbs or barely any carbs, now you're losing energy and your body has to start getting it somewhere because that brain needs it. So your body's going to tap into proteins for support. It's like this. If I'm a pilot on an airplane, of course I am capable of walking and passing out a peanut to a passenger on the plane, but I'm much more qualified to be flying the aircraft. Proteins and fats is the same thing. Of course they can give you energy, but they're better equipped to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is making essential compounds like I talk about all the time. Once again for you, that is things like thyroxine, epinephrine, hemoglobin, insulin, neurotransmitters, hormones. These are the things that proteins make. They'd much rather be making those essential compounds than passing out peanuts, okay? Then, because the body is so smart, and it understands, and you should understand, that proteins are the VIP nutrient, the body will only allow proteins to be utilized for energy for so long before it starts hitting up fats for help. Fats are the hardest to digest. So fats they could help as well. They could pass out those peanuts, but they're much more specialized to be making their essential compounds like phospholipids, fatty acids, cholesterol, prostaglandins, which have a lot to do with your blood pressure, leukotrienes, which has a lot to do with your immune system, and also things like thromboxanes, which are your clotting agents. Think about it. If I am now drawing fats for energy, if I'm using fats for energy, I'm going to be lowering my capability of making those essential compounds that I just listed to you. So is it any wonder when we see so many people with cholesterol issues or people who are on heart blood pressure medications? It is crazy when we're thinking about using prescription drugs for food, because prescription drugs don't allow you to get energy from them because they're not foods. So if we just backed way, way up and just looked at these three silos, if we just looked at that little triangle, structure, function, neurology, magic happens. I really encourage you to work with doctors who understand these simple truths, that the body knows how to heal itself, especially when you tap into how the body renews, how it gets energy. You all have cell phones. Perhaps you're watching this video on your cell phone right now. God forbid it's on one of those 65-inch screen TVs. I worked hard at this hair today. But the point is, when your battery is low, you got to recharge it, right? When the human body needs recharging, it needs more energy. How do we get that? We get that by eating the right macros, not avoiding any of the macros, first of all. We eat macros, all three of them, because only carbs, proteins, and fats give you energy, preferably carbs, but you clearly need to be eating enough proteins and fats. Ladies, I'm speaking to you. Most women do not eat enough protein and fat. So I give a good ballpark range. This is a ballpark. This is just a guideline. 80 grams of protein per day, 60 grams of fat per day, 150 less carbs per day. That's just a good guideline for you, something for you to kind of use as a model. So when we are not properly eating those macros, and if we're not digesting them, this is a problem. Just because you put food in your mouth does not mean that you properly and effectively digest it. The phrase, "you are what you eat," wrong, false, not true. Better said, you are what you digest. You are not what you eat. You are what you digest. If you are somebody that's out there watching this video or know of somebody who's struggling with Crohn's or colitis or low energy of any kind, maybe you have psoriasis or eczema, something going on that you know is gut related, and maybe now you do know that even high blood pressure is gut related. It's probably because you're not digesting fats or eating enough fats in that example. If you have a hard time bruising or you're bruising all the time, you're not healing quickly. This is all linked into what's going on with this energy cascade that I talked to you about with these silos. It has everything to do with what's going on with carbs, proteins, fats. We can't ignore this sequence. We need to renew. We need to recharge. Just like plugging in your cell phone, you need to plug in your body with food because it is the only thing that will recharge you. Finally, what I will say to you, vitamins and minerals, they do nothing to supply the body with energy. But yet, that's what everybody focuses on when they're coming into my office. They have bags and bags and bags of all these vitamins and minerals that they're taking, and there's nothing magical in that bag like an enzyme. And that is the real key behind my work. I'm an enzyme nutritionist. So as I was saying, if you know somebody or if you're watching this video and you want to work with me, just go to longdistancedoc.com, a little form right there for you to fill that out, or you can call my office at 586-685-2222. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.